Keep your hands where I can see them. Step out of the vehicle slowly.
Officer, my name is Crispin Morrow. I am a United States federal judge for the Northern District of Illinois. This vehicle belongs to me.
I'm not going to ask you again. Get out of the car right now.
My registration and credentials are in my jacket pocket. I am not reaching for anything.
Stop
I am a federal
recorded.
judge.
Sergeant Vince Harmon told his captain he'd crack down on luxury vehicle theft in the Eastbrook corridor. And he meant it, even if the evidence was nothing more than a black man driving a car Harmon decided he had no business owning. He lit up his sirens, cut the BMW off at the Delmont overpass, and before the driver could speak a single word, Harmon had him spread eagle on the hood with a weapon drawn and a city watching from their phones. What Sergeant Harmon didn't know was that the man whose face he was grinding into the metal had sentenced 3 dirty cops in this very district, and the dashcam mounted to his own cruiser was already transmitting live to a cloud server neither Harmon nor his union rep could touch. Before we go further, what city or country are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. We love seeing where you're tuning in from here on Deep Truth. If you believe that a badge should never be a license to destroy an innocent man's life, hit the like button and subscribe to Deep Truth so you never miss a story like this one. The Eastbrook corridor ran like a scar through the south side of Chicago, a 4-mile stretch of industrial blocks, late-night convenience stores, and cracked 2-lane roads that the city had been promising to repave since 2011. By 11 o'clock on a Tuesday night in October, most of Eastbrook was already shut down. The laundromat on Delmont Avenue had flipped its sign an hour ago. The corner store at Weston and 5th had its iron gate pulled halfway down. A few streetlights buzzed overhead, the kind that flickered just enough to remind you the city wasn't paying close attention out here. That was exactly why the Chicago PD's 14th District had flagged Eastbrook as a priority zone 3 weeks earlier. Luxury vehicle theft had spiked 31% across the south side over the summer. 4 BMWs, 2 Mercedes, a Range Rover, and a fully loaded Cadillac Escalade had all been reported stolen within a 6-block radius of this corridor between June and September. The department's response was a directive that landed on every sergeant's desk on October 3rd. Increase patrol density in the Eastbrook and Hargrove zones. Flag anomalous vehicle activity. Prioritize recovery of high-value stolen assets. It was, on paper, a reasonable response to a real problem. What it became in the hands of Officer Prescott Hale was something else entirely. Prescott Hale had been with the Chicago PD for 11 years. He worked out of the 14th District, drove the same patrol route 4 nights a week, and had developed, over the course of those 11 years, a particular kind of confidence that the department's internal review board had noted twice in his file. The kind of confidence that didn't leave much room for being wrong. He was 38 years old, broad-shouldered, with close-cropped hair going gray at the temples and a habit of resting his right hand on his holster when he talked to people he'd already decided were a problem. His clearance rate on vehicle recoveries was solid. 7 confirmed stolen vehicles flagged and recovered in the past 2 years. And he wore that number like armor. Seated in the passenger seat of their patrol unit that night was his partner, Officer Nadia Cornwell. Nadia was 31, 4 years into her assignment at the 14th, and sharp in ways that sometimes made Prescott uncomfortable. She had a habit of running plates before drawing conclusions, double-checking details before making calls, and asking the kind of questions that Prescott interpreted as hesitation but were actually precision. She'd flagged 2 of those 7 vehicle recoveries herself. Prescott had written the reports. They were parked in the shallow lot behind the Eastbrook Fuel and Service Station on Delmont Avenue. Engine idling, coffee cooling in the center console, when the BMW turned onto the overpass. Prescott saw it before Nadia did. A 2022 BMW 7.5 OIX drive, midnight blue, moving at a measured, unhurried pace northbound on Delmont. Clean, no visible damage. Current plates, the kind of car that cost, depending on trim, somewhere between $90,000 and $110,000 new. There, Prescott said. He was already sitting forward. Nadia glanced up from the district log on her tablet. Where? BMW, northbound. Look at that. He said it the way someone says look at that when what they mean is, I already know what this is. Nadia looked at the car. She looked at the road. She reached for the plate scanner mounted to the dash. "Give me 2 seconds, I'll run it." Prescott was already pulling out of the lot. Crispin Morrow was 54 years old, and he had been a United States District Court judge for the Northern District of Illinois for the past 9 years. Before that, he had spent 11 years as a federal prosecutor, and before that, he had clerked for a circuit court judge in Washington, D.C., who had told him on his last day in chambers that he had the clearest legal mind she had encountered in 30 years on the bench. He had never forgotten that. He had also never stopped working to deserve it. He was a precise man, not cold, but deliberate. The kind of man who arrived early, read everything twice, and believed, with the particular conviction of someone who had spent decades inside courtrooms, that facts were the only currency that mattered. He stood 6 feet even, kept himself in the kind of shape that came from consistent discipline rather than vanity, and had a stillness about him that people in his courtroom sometimes mistook for detachment until they realized it was actually absolute attention. That Tuesday night, he was driving home from the Dirksen Federal Courthouse on South Dearborn Street, where he had spent 14 hours presiding over the third week of a complex racketeering trial that had the entire city's legal community watching closely. He had eaten a granola bar at his desk somewhere around 6 in the evening and hadn't thought about food since. His mind was still running through the afternoon's testimony. A forensic accountant whose methodology he was going to have questions about in the morning. When he turned onto Delmont Avenue and took the Eastbrook overpass the way he always did when heading back to his home in the Kenwood neighborhood. The BMW was his. He had purchased it 14 months ago from a dealership on Michigan Avenue, paid for it outright, and had it serviced every 6 months at a shop on 47th Street, whose owner had known him for 12 years. The registration was current. The insurance was current. The plates were clean. He had the NPR affiliate playing low on the stereo. There was a travel mug of green tea in the cup holder that had gone cold somewhere around 31st Street. His robe was in a dry cleaning bag hanging from the hook behind the driver's seat. He noticed the patrol unit pulling out of the fuel station lot behind him and thought nothing of it. He kept his speed steady. 26 miles per hour on a road marked 25. His hands were at 9 and 3 on the wheel, the way his father had taught him when he was 16 years old in a parking lot in Evanston. The way he had driven every day since. He was thinking about the forensic accountant. He was not thinking about what came next. Prescott Hale hit the lights before Nadia had finished pulling up the plate query. The red and blue strobed across the overpass, washing the underside of the Delmont Bridge in sharp, repeating color. Prescott accelerated, swung wide into the oncoming lane, empty at this hour, and cut the BMW off at the crest of the overpass with a hard angle that left Crispin Morrow less than 8 feet of stopping distance. Crispin braked smoothly, no panic, no jerk of the wheel. He brought the car to a full stop, put it in park, and in the 2 seconds between the stop and whatever came next, he did what he had trained himself to do in situations that carried weight. He breathed, and he became very still. In the patrol unit, Nadia's screen populated. She looked at the plate result. She opened her mouth. Prescott was already out of the car. He came around the front of the BMW fast, one hand on his holster, the other pointing finger extended, arm straight. At the driver's side window, his voice hit the overpass concrete and bounced. "Hands. Let me see your hands right now. Do not reach for anything." Crispin placed both palms flat against the inside of the windshield, visible, open, still. His face was calm. Not the calm of someone who wasn't afraid, but the calm of someone who understood that fear, in this moment, was a luxury he could not afford. Behind them, in the patrol unit, Nadia Cornwell stared at her screen. The plate had come back clean. She reached for her radio. Prescott Hale did not wait for Nadia to finish her sentence. She had barely touched the radio when he yanked the driver's side door open with both hands and reached inside. Crispin Morrow had his palms flat against the windshield, fingers spread, doing everything right. and none of it mattered. Prescott grabbed him by the collar of his suit jacket and pulled him sideways out of the seat with the kind of force that made Nadia flinch from 20 feet away. Crispin's shoulder hit the doorframe on the way out. His travel mug of cold green tea tipped from the cup holder and soaked the center console. His reading glasses, which had been resting on the passenger seat, slid onto the floor. He did not resist. He did not raise his voice. He kept his hands visible the entire time. That composure seemed to make Prescott angrier. Within seconds, Crispin was face down on the asphalt of the Delmont overpass, one knee pressed into the middle of his back. A service weapon held 6 inches from the back of his skull. The concrete was wet from earlier rain. His suit jacket, the one he wore in federal court, was soaking through at the chest. He turned his face to the side and stared at the yellow lane marking beneath him. And he breathed the way he had trained himself to breathe when things were moving too fast for anything else to be useful. "Don't move," Prescott said. "You move, this gets worse for you." Crispin spoke clearly, without raising his voice. "I am not resisting. My name is Crispin Morrow. This vehicle is registered in my name. I am a federal judge assigned to the Northern District of Illinois." Prescott pressed the knee harder. "Sure you are." Nadia had gotten out of the patrol unit by then. She walked toward them with the measured pace of someone trying to slow a situation down without making it worse. She had been in enough street stops to know that how you moved in the next 30 seconds could determine how the next hour went. She kept her voice even when she reached Prescott's side. "Prescott," she said quietly. "The plate came back clean. It's registered. We need to slow down." He didn't look at her. "I didn't ask you to run the plate yet." "I ran it anyway," she said. "It's clear." There was a pause. Not a long one. Maybe 3 seconds. But anyone watching would have recognized it as the moment where the decision still could have gone differently. Prescott could have stood up. He could have holstered his weapon, helped the man off the ground, and turned a bad stop into a recoverable situation. He had the information. Nadia had given it to him directly, standing right beside him in plain language. He chose not to use it. "Stolen vehicles get replated," he said, and he said it like it settled the matter. "We're holding him until I'm satisfied." Nadia took a small step back. She didn't argue further, but she turned her head toward the dashcam on their patrol unit, and for just a moment she looked at it the way you look at something you're relieved is there. By this point, 2 cars had slowed on the overpass. One stopped entirely on the far shoulder. A woman in a gray Honda Civic who had rolled her window down and was holding her phone up, the screen glowing in the dark. A man walking a dog on the pedestrian path that ran alongside the bridge had also stopped. He was watching without his phone out, but he wasn't moving either. The Eastbrook overpass wasn't a busy stretch at 11 at night, but it was busy enough that what was happening on it was being seen. Crispin was aware of all of this. He was also aware, with the kind of precise legal mind that had spent 9 years processing facts under pressure, that the most important thing happening on this overpass right now was not the gun near his head. It was the red recording light on the dashcam mounted to the patrol unit, sitting at an angle that captured him, captured Prescott, and captured every word being said between them. He had handled enough misconduct cases in his courtroom to know what dashcam footage did to a case. He had seen it dismantle defenses that seemed solid on paper. He had seen officers testify with full confidence about a stop, only to have the footage show something completely different. He understood, lying face down on wet asphalt in his court suit, that the most powerful thing he could do right now was stay calm, stay clear, and keep talking. "Officer," he said, "I want to make sure you are aware that I have identification in my inside jacket pocket. My judicial credentials are in my briefcase on the back seat. I am not reaching for anything. I am simply telling you what is available for you to verify." "You'll have plenty of time to explain yourself," Prescott said. "I don't need to explain myself," Crispin said. "The plate is registered to me. Your partner already confirmed that." Prescott said nothing. What was happening to Crispin Morrow on the Delmont overpass that night was not unusual in the way that made it shocking. It was unusual in the way that made it clarifying. Men who looked like him had been stopped on roads like this one, in cities like this one, for reasons that had nothing to do with what they had actually done. And most of those stops never made the news, never produced a lawsuit, and never ended with anyone being held accountable. The difference between those stops and this one was sitting on the hood of the patrol unit, its red light blinking steadily in the dark. Inside the patrol unit, the dashcam had been recording since the moment Prescott hit the lights on Delmont Avenue. It had captured the cutoff. It had captured the exit from the vehicle. It had captured Crispin's palms against the windshield. It had captured Nadia telling Prescott the plate was clear, and it had captured Prescott's response. The audio was clean because the overpass was quiet and because both men had been speaking loudly enough for it to matter. The system the 14th District had installed 18 months earlier automatically uploaded footage to a secure cloud server every 15 minutes during an active patrol shift. Nobody on the overpass that night knew the exact timestamp of the last upload, but the recording had not stopped. Nadia walked back to the patrol unit and sat in the passenger seat. She did not pick up the radio. She did not call the stop in as an arrest, because no arrest had been made and no charges had been stated. She pulled up the plate result on her tablet again and looked at it for a long moment. Registered owner, Crispin A. Morrow. 4811 Greenwood Avenue, Chicago, Illinois. And then she set the tablet face down on her knee. She stared through the windshield at Prescott kneeling over a man in a soaked suit on wet concrete, holding a weapon on someone whose only offense was driving a car that cost more than Prescott thought he should own. She thought about the dash cam. She thought about the report she would have to write before her shift ended. She thought about what she had said and what she had not said, and what the difference between those two things would look like later, under a different kind of scrutiny. Outside, Crispin Morrow stayed still. He kept his hands where they could be seen. He kept his voice level every time he spoke. And he waited. Not because he had no other choice, but because he understood that patience, deployed correctly, was the sharpest tool available to him right now. The dashcam blinked red. It was still recording. The radio crackled at 11:14 p.m. It came through the patrol unit speaker. Not loud, but clear enough to cut through the quiet of the overpass like a blade through still water. Nadia heard it first because she was sitting inside the car. She picked up the handset slowly, listened, and then set it back down without saying a word. She sat there for a moment with both hands in her lap. Then she got out of the car. Prescott. Her voice was flat. Not urgent, not emotional, just flat in the way that told anyone who knew her that something had shifted. He looked up from where he was crouched over Crispin. What? Dispatch just ran the full verification. Vehicle owner confirmation came back. She paused. You need to hear this. He stood slowly, keeping one foot near Crispin's side like he hadn't fully decided to move yet. So tell me. Nadia looked at him directly. The car belongs to United States District Court Judge Crispin A. Morrow, appointed 2015, Northern District of Illinois. She let that sit for exactly 1 second before she added, Prescott, he told you that 20 minutes ago. The silence that followed was not dramatic. It did not echo. There was no gasp from the woman in the Honda Civic who was still recording from the far shoulder, no audible reaction from the man with the dog on the pedestrian path. The overpass just went quiet in the ordinary way that places go quiet when something has already happened and everyone present understands that the next few seconds are going to matter for a very long time. Prescott Hale stood over a federal judge he had dragged out of a legally registered vehicle, pinned to wet asphalt for 20 minutes, and held at gunpoint without a single piece of evidence, without a confirmed stolen vehicle report, and against the direct verbal advisement of his own partner. And now he was standing in the middle of the Delmont overpass with that information settling over him like concrete. He didn't move for a moment. Then he holstered his weapon. That was it. No apology, no acknowledgement. He holstered his weapon, took a step back, and said nothing. Crispin Morrow pushed himself up from the ground slowly. Not because he was hurt, though his shoulder would bruise badly by morning and the scrape along his left forearm was already darkening. He rose slowly because he was deliberate in everything he did, and because he understood that how he stood up in this moment was going to matter just as much as everything that came before it. He got to his feet, straightened to his full height, and adjusted what was left of the dignity of his suit jacket. The front of it was dark with rainwater and grit from the overpass surface. His tie had been pulled sideways. He straightened it. Then he turned and looked at Prescott Hale directly. Not with rage, not with satisfaction, just with the steady, unblinking attention of a man who had spent 9 years looking at people across a courtroom and letting the facts do the work. He said 4 words. "You heard me, officer." Not a question, not a threat. A fact, delivered in the same tone he used when he sustained an objection. Calm, final, and completely without mercy. Prescott said nothing. Crispin reached into his inside jacket pocket, the same pocket he had told Prescott about 20 minutes ago, and produced his judicial credentials. He held them up for exactly the length of time it took for the woman's phone camera across the road to capture it clearly. Then he put them away. He walked to his car, checked that it was still drivable, and sat back in the driver's seat. He did not speed away. He sat there for a moment, and from the patrol unit's dashcam angle, you could see him clearly through the windshield. Hands resting on the steering wheel, eyes forward, completely still. Then he picked up his phone and made a call. Nobody on that overpass would find out until later who he called. But the call lasted 4 minutes, and when it ended, Crispin put the car in drive and pulled off the overpass at exactly the speed limit. Prescott watched the BMW's taillights disappear onto Delmont Avenue heading south. Then he turned back to the patrol unit and got in without speaking. Nadia got in on the passenger side. Neither of them said anything for almost a full minute. Then Nadia spoke. "I told you the plate was clear." "I heard you," Prescott said. "Before you pulled him out of the car," she said. "I told you before." He didn't answer. He put the unit in drive. What Prescott Hale did not know as he pulled off the Delmont overpass that night was that the dashcam upload had already occurred at 11:09 p.m., 5 minutes before dispatch confirmed Crispin's identity, and 3 minutes before Nadia came back to the car. The footage, all 23 minutes of it, was already sitting on the 14th District's cloud server with a timestamp that could not be altered, deleted, or explained away. He did not know that the woman in the Honda Civic had uploaded her phone footage to 3 separate platforms before she even pulled back onto the road. He did not know that Crispin Morrow's 4-minute phone call had been to the chief judge of the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals. He drove back toward the Eastbrook corridor thinking he still had time to write a report that made sense of the night. He did not have that time. The footage went public at 6:47 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. It didn't come from the department. It didn't come from a leak or a whistleblower or an anonymous tip to a journalist. It came from the woman in the Honda Civic, whose name was never released, who had uploaded her phone footage to 3 platforms the night before and woken up to find that one of those uploads had been shared 40,000 times while she slept. By the time Chicago's morning news cycle started, every major outlet in the city had the clip. By noon, it was national. The video was clear. That was the problem for everyone who might have wanted to manage it. There was no bad angle, no obscured view, no moment where you could reasonably argue about what you were seeing. You could see Crispin's hands on the windshield before the door was opened. You could see Prescott pull him out. You could see the weapon. You could hear Crispin state his name, his title, and the fact that the vehicle was registered to him. And you could hear Prescott's response. Then the dashcam footage released by the department's own cloud system the following morning filled in everything the phone video had missed, including Nadia telling Prescott the plate was clear before he ever reached the door handle. There was nothing to argue about. The tape was the argument, and it had already won. The Chicago Police Department released a statement at 9 a.m. calling the stop deeply concerning and promising a full internal review. By 2 p.m. that same day, the superintendent had upgraded the language to a clear violation of department policy and the rights of a private citizen. By 4 p.m., Prescott Hale had been placed on unpaid suspension pending investigation. The union released a 3-paragraph statement that, by the following morning, even the union's own members were distancing themselves from publicly. The chief judge of the 7th Circuit had already contacted the Department of Justice before the sun came up. The U.S. Attorney's Office opened a federal civil rights inquiry within 36 hours. The city's legal department, understanding with the particular clarity of people who had just watched 23 minutes of indefensible footage, began settlement conversations before any lawsuit was formally filed. Crispin Morrow did not hold a press conference. He did not give interviews. He returned to his courtroom on Thursday morning, took his seat on the bench, and presided over the third week of his racketeering trial with the same attention he brought to every session. The only public statement he released was 4 sentences long, written without a publicist, and ended with a line that every news outlet in the country ran in full. "I am one of the fortunate ones. I had credentials to show and a dashcam that worked. Most people in my position have neither. That is the problem this city needs to answer." The internal investigation took 11 days. Investigators reviewed the dashcam footage, the dispatch logs, Nadia's tablet record showing she had run the plate and received a clean return before Prescott exited the vehicle, and the timeline of Prescott's radio communications that night, which showed he had not called in a stop, not requested backup, and not initiated a plate query through official channels before making contact with the vehicle. On the 12th day, Prescott Hale was terminated from the Chicago Police Department. The official termination letter cited unauthorized use of force, failure to follow proper stop protocol, disregard of a partner's direct advisement, and conduct unbecoming of a sworn officer. It was 4 pages long. Every page had something worse than the last. The criminal charge came 3 weeks after termination. The Cook County State's attorney filed charges of official misconduct and aggravated assault under color of law. The federal civil rights charge followed from the U.S. Attorney's Office 14 days after that. Prescott's union-appointed attorney requested 3 continuances. None of them changed the footage. The trial lasted 9 days. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Prescott Hale was convicted on all counts and sentenced to 3 years in a federal correctional facility. He was 48 years old when he reported to custody. The city of Chicago settled the civil lawsuit brought by Crispin Morrow for $4.3 million. As part of the settlement agreement, the city also committed to a set of reforms that the department had been resisting for years. Mandatory plate confirmation before any vehicle stop, updated body and dashcam upload protocols, and an independent civilian oversight panel with actual authority to review use of force cases. None of these were new ideas. They had been proposed before, debated before, and shelved before. It took one night on the Delmont overpass to make them unavoidable. Nadia Cornwell was cleared of wrongdoing after a separate review board determined she had followed correct protocol. She transferred to a different district 6 months later and has not spoken publicly about that night. Crispin Morrow still drives home from the Dirksen Federal Courthouse late on Tuesday nights. He still takes Delmont Avenue. He still crosses the Eastbrook overpass at exactly the speed limit, both hands on the wheel, the way his father taught him in a parking lot in Evanston when he was 16 years old. He doesn't think about Prescott Hale when he crosses that bridge. He thinks about everyone who crossed it before him and didn't have a dashcam to prove what happened. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to see it. Every share keeps these stories alive. And these stories matter. This has been Deep Truth.